Hey everybody, Trey Bender here. I'm down here in Asheville, North Carolina with my main man here, Seven at Sela. He was also sent to Solstice East here in Asheville, North Carolina. So Seven, man, tell me all about it. Like, how old were you when you went?
Okay.
When were you there?
I was 15 years old when I got sent to Solstice East. I went there from 2015 to 2016. I was there for 14 months. So I was there until I was 16 years old.
Were you taken there on your own accord, or were you escorted?
So my parents made me believe I was going to a therapeutic boarding school. And they basically told me that I would have access to my cell phone, that I would have access to communicating with my friends, I would have access to the internet, and they took me to Solstice East, and it turns out that none of that was true. So they lied to me to get in the car with them, if that makes any sense.
Okay. You were taken there by your parents, though?
Yes, my parents drove me. So I was not escorted or like legally kidnapped. I was not.
What was the first thing that happened to you when you got there?
When I first got there, they confiscated all my belongings and searched through them for any like contraband. A lot of my personal belongings got stolen by staff members during my time there. And I was strip searched when I first made it onto the campus. 2 staff members brought me into a bathroom, ordered me to strip naked. And yeah, they held up a thin sheet between us and like peeked over it, and they told me to jump up and down and squat to make sure, you know, nothing came out of my crevices, I suppose. And then one of the staff members reached underneath my breasts and felt me down there to make sure I didn't have anything.
And you were only 15 years old?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. Yeah.
Okay. I can't imagine what that must have felt like at that age.
Yeah.
You know.
And these are like grown staff members, like grown people.
Wow. Was there a lot of male staff working there when you were there?
When I was there, there was I think 4 or 5 male staff, and most of the time that I was put on safety phase or like arm's reach, they would assign me with a male staff member. So basically he would be able to watch me go to the bathroom and shower, and I also was not able to like sleep unattended, and often it would be a male staff member watching me sleep through the night when I was on safety.
Wow. Can you explain to us what exactly like arm's reach means?
Yeah.
Because I've heard that a lot from people who've been to Solstice, but I definitely we just need a little clarification on what exactly arm's reach entails.
So,
could you tell us?
Of course, certainly. Arm's reach basically entails 1 staff member to a student. So you have to be within arm's reach of that staff member at all times during meals. Like I said, you know, not being able to use the restroom unattended or shower unattended. And shoot, let me think of like a good way to say this.
Say it however you need to say it.
All of our conversations were monitored by that 1 arm's reach staff member, so we weren't allowed to have any conversations with our peers without somebody listening in and taking notes on what we were saying to each other. And often if you said something that they didn't like, they could take away your right to talk at any given time. And I think there's a few times that I was there where I had asked to use the bathroom because I really had to go, and they told me I couldn't go to the bathroom. So they prevented me from using the restroom when I needed to.
And was this commonplace?
Yes, this was commonplace. I knew a girl there who has Crohn's disease, and I mean, Crohn's disease is Crohn's disease.
Absolutely.
And if you need to go, you need to go.
Absolutely.
And she shit her pants because they wouldn't let her use the restroom. So that was very common.
So this was something you saw on a regular basis.
Yep.
And was punishment doled out by the staff or other students?
So both. Higher level residents were able to like dole out punishment to the lower status residents. So that was, you know, part of their attack therapy, and the like pitting us against each other so that we didn't try and like band together almost. And then yeah, staff would also issue punishment without talking to therapists first. So they didn't necessarily have to get permission from the therapists to give us punishment.
Okay. Was there like a level system throughout this?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain how the level system works?
Yeah, so when you first get there for the first like 2 weeks to a month, depending on the person, they were keeping you on a phase called separation. And that was like their initial phase. You're not allowed to speak to your family. You have to be in arm's reach of staff. You can't sleep unattended. Everything you say is monitored. You don't have any privileges, so you can't even I couldn't even write stories. I really liked writing at Solstice. That's kind of one of my escapes. I couldn't play my musical instrument. I couldn't write fictional stories. So I was on separation for about a month, and then initiation is the next phase. And you slowly gain privileges, but every person has to do the same therapeutic assignments, which is not what these programs are meant to do. They're meant to, give person individual assignments so that they can focus on their healing individually. And I believe, if I'm wrong, there was 7 phases. And they refer to it as the hero's journey. That's what they called it. It was the hero's journey. And so
If they called it the hero's journey, what do you call it?
I call it bullshit.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I
But,
call it bullshit.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I might have been thinking that, but I kind of wanted to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Since it's your experience.
Yeah.
Keep going. I want to hear about this
Yeah,
hero's journey.
On the last phase, students were allowed to use the internet, but they had to be monitored, and a lot of websites like YouTube, Facebook, etc. were either blocked, or they would have a recording device to record everything you did on the screen.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so
That bad.
yeah, certain phase girls were not allowed to leave campus at any point, even for doctor's appointments. So I think it's the first 2 phases, you're not allowed to go on recreational activities. So yeah, once you phased up, you were able to use things like your instrument, or we weren't allowed to have iPods. We could only have CD players. I still have my Walkman. I kept it. It's
Hell yeah.
I kept
Hell
it.
yeah.
They had to approve all of the CDs that we listened to, but I snuck a Rage Against the Machine CD in underneath my Coldplay CD.
Was it Evil Empire or Battle for
Battle of Los Angeles.
Battle of Los Angeles.
Battle of
man.
Los Angeles.
Oh man,
Yep.
all right.
Yeah, and actually, funnily enough, Isaac shared one of his CDs with me. He wasn't supposed to do that, but he gave me a My Chemical Romance CD when he
Hell
left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That sounds a lot like how it was for me when I was in my program. It was 6 levels, and the higher up you were, you could deal out the punishment. Now, I want to ask you this. Would staff continually make up new rules as the days went by?
Yes. Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Can you tell us some of the crazy rules that were made up?
We weren't allowed to be in the kitchen unattended because
Okay.
one of the peers of mine had actually started drinking the chemicals to try and get them to take her to the hospital. They put up railings on the top balcony because a girl did jump off. So they made a rule against jumping off the balcony. Let's see. I think no note passing, but that's pretty obvious. I can't off the top of my head really think of many more, other than I wasn't allowed to play my instruments outside of free time, and there was limits on stuff that you couldn't share in groups, if that makes sense. So at any given time they would be oh, you have to tell about this thing and you can't tell about this thing, if that makes sense.
What were some of the bigger punishments that happened to you?
To me personally,
To you personally, what happened? What stands out in your mind that happened to you when you were being punished here at Solstice?
I would say safety phase was
Okay,
the
tell
worst
us
of
about
it.
that. Tell us
So
about that.
safety phase is similar to starting the program over. So you're on arm's reach from a staff member. You can't communicate with your peers at all.
Okay.
You can't even write them notes. If you have to go to the bathroom, you had to write it down and be I have to go to the bathroom, and they could tell you no. They observed me in the restroom and in the shower, and I had to sleep in the common area, and the lights were left on all night. Night staff sat feet away from me next to my bed, sometimes with their laptops on, playing loud music and watching movies and holding loud conversations, and even playing violent video games on televisions. Yeah, and I think that was probably the worst of it for me. I did not get any sleep at those points. I was often denied my PRN sleeping medication on those nights because there wasn't somebody qualified or able or trained to give me that medication. And at 24-hour facilities, there has to be someone on staff at
absolutely.
all times that can administer medication in case something happens. I mean, So
Can you tell us what PRN medication is?
yeah, so PRN stands for like as needed.
Okay.
So if, say I was having an anxiety attack and I needed my PRN anxiety medication,
Okay.
there would be times where, you know, you could be denied that at Solstice East if you were having issues.
Uh-huh. When you left Solstice East, how long had you been there?
14 months.
You were there 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
In those 14 months, how many phone calls did you have with your family?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact number, to be honest. But not as many as I would have liked.
So it wasn't many, is what?
No, it was once a week.
Oh, it was once a week.
Once a week. And that's after you earned that privilege.
And how long did it take to earn this privilege?
For me, like 2 months, cause
Oh, wow.
yeah, they didn't. I didn't want to be part of the program, obviously.
I didn't want to be part of my program either.
Right. So they were like, you can't talk to your family until you're ready to be part of the program and join our cult. And I was like, well, you can't do that. Like, not to me, at least. Like, ugh. Yeah. And it would start at 5 minutes. So you'd have 5 minutes to talk to them, and then 10 minutes, and then 15, and then the top was 20.
Were these phone calls monitored?
Yes.
Okay.
A staff
How-
member would sit there behind us and take notes on what we were talking about.
Okay. Were the calls ever like you might have said something that they didn't like and maybe they just hung up right then and there? Was that commonplace?
Well, the biggest issue for me is that my adopted mom is an alcoholic. So it would be scheduled for the same time, the same day, every week. And I would call and I would hear that she was drunk. And so often I would just hang up and like relinquish my own responsibility to like have a phone call with her because I didn't want to talk to her while she was drunk. She knew I was gonna call her and, you know, I didn't want to talk to her while she was drunk because I'm here in this program and I want to talk to my family and she's too drunk to even form like full sentences. So I often didn't communicate with her on the phone. And family therapy, that's another thing that I should mention.
Please tell us all about it.
They didn't require my adopted dad to be part of it. And when I say that, I mean, my therapist and I would call my dad and he would be watching YouTube videos in the background and not like actually taking part in the therapy. And my adopted father sexually assaulted me when I was a child and is racist. I'm the only non-white person in my family. And yeah, he's a horrible person and he really could have used some help from Solstice East, and they didn't do anything to, you know, facilitate that. And that's part of their model, is they claim to bring families together, right? And like solve the problems, but their real thing is like the kid is the problem. The child's the problem and they need to be fixed.
Yes. Yes.
Never the parents.
Never. It's never the parents. No, of course not.
Never.
You know, that's kind of like what was going on with me when I was going through this. And you know, I know exactly what it is you're saying. I relate entirely with the phone calls. The entire time I was in my program, I had 2 phone calls. You said you were at Solstice East 14 months, right? In those 14 months, how often did you leave the campus?
I would say I left the campus a total of 4 times.
4 times in 14 months.
4 times.
4 times.
Maybe 5. I don't remember exactly, but it was less than 10.
Okay. On this campus, did they have recreation fields, horses, anything like that?
They had horses. We weren't allowed to spend time with them unless it was specifically for therapy. So the only time we could interact with the horses was for therapy purposes only.
Therapy purposes only.
And the only time we were allowed to use, they have like a little field out there, and the only time we were allowed to use that was workout time.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to go out there on our own, unattended, until we were on the last phase.
Okay. Did you ever get to ride the horses?
I did. I actually healed a lot with the horses. I think the horses did a lot for me.
Really?
I actually was able to ride my horse without a bit, without a saddle, nothing on him at all except for a little string around his neck, and I got him to go through a obstacle course just by using my mind and my energy, and it was actually really cool.
You know, there were horses at my program, but I never got to ride them.
No?
Never. I never did, man. What did you take when you finally left Solstice East? What would you say you had trouble with when you got out?
Suicidal ideations.
Suicidal ideation.
I tried to kill myself many times.
Many times, okay.
I was still self-harming. I was still struggling with my family not accepting my gender identity. That was huge.
Okay.
That was something that stayed prevalent and is still prevalent in my life today. They don't support my gender identity. They don't want to show up for me as their son. They still want to see me as their daughter. And I'm gonna take off my mask because, like, look at this facial hair.
Absolutely.
You can't call me a lady
I don't
anymore.
think I could.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't call me a lady anymore. So, and on top of that, I stayed sober after
Okay.
Solstice East, which was very hard for me. I still drank alcohol. But hard drugs were a no-no for me after I left Solstice East. Once I went through the withdrawal at Solstice East, I was like, I'm never doing hard drugs again. Like, I cannot go through this
I get that.
ever.
I
Yeah.
get that.
And then abusive relationships. I was in many, many abusive relationships after I left Solstice East, and I think that I contribute that to Solstice East because, you know, they made me a vulnerable person. They pushed me out into the world when I wasn't ready, and I was still extremely traumatized from the program. They didn't prepare me to go out into the real world at all. I felt completely unready to do that. I couldn't even, like, finish high school until I was 20 years old because of them.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Would you say you left with post-traumatic stress disorder?
I think I had PTSD before I went to Solstice. That's part of the reason that I went there, was to heal from sexual trauma and, like, abuse that I had suffered before Solstice. And Solstice East actually caused my PTSD to develop into complex PTSD. So I have complex PTSD now, not just regular PTSD.
You struggle with that every day.
Yeah, daily. Daily.
You know, I want you to know, I struggle with PTSD and trauma from my stay in my program. I struggle with that every day. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I still struggle with that. And you know, it's like I was saying to Isaac earlier, who I met today. You know, I struggle with it, and I get it. So don't think you're the only one. I didn't have a movement like this when I was your age, and you're how old now?
22.
22. When I was 22, I struggled with trauma, and it's like I've said before, I went about a lot of things in the wrong way. I did that. Do I regret it now? Some of it. Yes, I did. Not all, but some. While you were there, who made decisions for you? Was it the staff, or were you assigned somebody that made all the decisions for you?
So they had what they called, like, a clinical team for each person, or a treatment team, sorry. A treatment team that they had for each person, that they were supposed to, like, create a individualized regimen of treatments and, like, reactions to adverse things like, say, self-harm or panic attacks. So basically it was the clinical director, the program director, my primary therapist, and some regular staff member that was called, like, the mentor.
Okay.
Which I didn't experience my mentor to be a mentor at all. Basically all she did was beat me down for having symptoms and verbally abuse me for having anxiety attacks and claiming that I was faking them. And yeah, so mainly the therapist and my mentor.
Okay. What kinds of things would the therapist do to you particularly? Like you had said that you were denied hormone treatments. I want you to tell us about that.
Okay. Well, for the first 8 months of my stay at Solstice East,
Okay.
Staff, management, and my peers were encouraged and forced to call me by my legal name and misgender me using female pronouns. Obviously that was extremely damaging for me and for a lot of my peers as well, and if they refused to call me my legal name and female pronouns, they would be put on safety, or, you know, punished in other ways, like privileges revoked, or even in a couple instances their faces were moved down because they refused to refer to me as a woman. So that happened for the first 8 months. My therapist, actually, she was pretty cool throughout my entire time there. She didn't like the way they treated me, but she claimed that there was nothing she could do about it. But she did say she believed that hormone replacement therapy and, like, getting on testosterone would really aid in my healing. And despite bringing that to my treatment team, they still said, no, we're not doing that. We don't have the people able to give this person the hormone shots. And then I also later found out that a trans man attended Solstice after I did, and they treated him like a king. and they let him get on hormones while he was there. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like a lot of things. It's like these schools, they, what's not okay one day, then it comes to light, and they're like, oh, well, you know, let's just go ahead and do that.
I also want to say they did a psych evaluation on me after a few months of me being there and continuing to like dead name me and misgender me, and they were surprised that after they had switched over and let me go by male pronouns and my preferred name, that they were like shocked at how different it was for me, because they did another psych eval after a few months of having switched my name and pronouns, and they were like, oh my god, I can't believe how much better he's gotten just in the last few months. And I'm like, well, I tried to tell you, like, I'm not gonna want to be part of this program unless you respect me for who I am. I remember my mentor once told me that I needed to take my gender and put it on a bench and just pretend that it wasn't there and not focus on it at all. And I was like, okay, but this is like part of what I'm dealing with. Like, I deal with dysphoria. I deal with the uncomfortable feeling of being in my body and feeling like something is wrong, and that was like a large part of why I sustained so much sexual trauma as a child.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't know who I was, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have words for it. And once I got the words for it, I was like, oh, this is supposed to make my life easier. And what ended up happening is that it made my life worse, and my parents got tired of hearing me complain about them misgendering and dead naming me, and so they just sent me to Solstice to try and get me to not be trans anymore.
Okay. You've been really working hard lately to bring awareness to Solstice. Has that been helping you, or has seeing the Breaking Code Silence movement that's gotten pretty big now, like, how has that helped you? What do you think about that?
I think that without finding out that other people went through this stuff, that I wouldn't be here right now. I have been speaking out locally in Asheville. I think that if we get folks here in this city aware of what's happening at Solstice East and at, you know, at its counterparts and its other programs and just the troubled teen industry as a whole, I think that getting Asheville behind us is a sick idea. I mean, we could win so many battles with the city next to us in this fight, and I think that seeing Breaking Code Silence and seeing This Is Paris,
Yes.
really, like, it triggered me, but not in a bad way. It triggered me to like realize that, like, it's not just regular people that go through this. It's celebrities. It's people that we see every day on the internet and on television who deal with this kind of abuse and suffering, and it like continues
and you would never know about it.
No, I would have never known.
Never known.
Never would have known.
Look at these people and you think they have no problems whatsoever, none at all, and that couldn't be any further from the truth.
Yep.
Could it? You know, these celebrities we see on TV are normal people like you and me. You know, they just are. All right, if you could talk directly to the people who run Solstice and these programs, what would you say?
I would say I'm coming for you.
You coming for 'em?
I would say I'm coming for you. I said, if you try to burn my kingdom down,
Okay.
you will have to deal with me and mine.
Absolutely.
Because we are not going to be quiet about this
Not
anymore.
at all. Not at all.
And I'm going to get Asheville behind me. I'm going to get the whole damn country behind me, and I won't stop until you're shut down and until every troubled teen industry program is shut down. Because we've had enough of this shit, and you've been doing this under this city's nose.
Absolutely.
People don't know what's happening, and that's why I'm here. And you suck, Wes. You suck, Kyle. And I remember, I'm going to tell a story
Please
about
do.
Wes
We wanna
and
hear the
Kyle.
story. Come on,
yeah.
man. Tell the story.
So one time during parent seminar, when all the parents would come on campus to do therapy, Wes Salent and Kyle Gillette dressed up in drag and performed, I think it was Let It Go. I don't remember really what the song was, but they dressed up like Elsa and Anna from Frozen, and like
And
decked
these two men
out.
are staff members.
They are the program directors, the people who run the place,
All
the
right,
head
I
honchos.
gotta ask this. Do you feel like they dressed up in drag to provoke you?
Yes,
Okay.
100%. I do. I kind of just like sat there and watched these families laughing and clapping and like cheering them on, and I'm sitting here like, historically, transgender people have been made the butt of the joke.
Absolutely.
And I sat here thinking, wow, this is horrible that they're doing this. And I know parents got pictures. I've been trying to find photos or videos of it. I can't find anything, but like there were there's survivors that can attest to the fact that that happened, and a lot of people felt uncomfortable.
Really?
I felt like I was being made fun of personally, because you know people were laughing, they thought it was funny, and I'm like, this is like, yeah.
So attack therapy like that was a common thing.
Yeah.
I am so
Yeah.
sorry, man. I am so sorry. You know, Seven, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this, man. I love seeing your persistence here, and when I see people like you, I look at people like you, and I think with men like you doing what you're doing, how can we fail? Anything else you'd like to say?
I'm gonna repeat, I'm coming for you. I am
Glad to
coming
hear
for
that,
you.
man.
I'm coming for you.
I'll be there for you, man.
I'm coming, and y'all better watch out, because if you see me coming, you better turn around and walk the other way. I got one fist of iron, the other of steel. If the right one don't get you, then the left one will.
Well, like I just said, with men like you, how can we fail? Thank you so much, Seven.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna end this now. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.